Boots on ground, serve with pride, never back down from the fight. Deserts and the city streets, we keep pushing through the night. Battle tested, battle ready, earn respect through blood and sweat. Unapologetic veterans and we ain't finished yet. Veterans speaking truth, real stories. Breaking down the walls, tearing through the lies. This is our time to rise. From the Corps to the Army, Navy, Air Force to Coast Guard, standing ready, red, white, and blue. No filter on the mic, just the truth we bring. Welcome to the show where the real vets sing. Unapologetic veterans, turn it up loud. We serve, we fought, we stand proud.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Unapologetic Veterans Podcast. Wow, it's been a while. I'm your host, Josh, for those of you that forgot.
And I'm Dr. James on TikTok, apparently, is what my banner says, so that's what's good.
Dr.
Hey, Josh,
James on TikTok.
You have every reason, look, brand new Papa. Congratulations, you and Laura.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah. For those that don't know, I just welcomed my third child 5 days ago. No, sorry, 6 days ago. Yeah, 6 days ago.
And everybody knows that baby is so good looking, got all of his good looks from you because you have none left.
I'm fresh out. No more for me. Yeah, it's been a crazy month realistically since our last episode. And to touch on the last episode, wow, that was amazing. Great episode. And then we followed it up a couple days later on TikTok, had a panel, a bunch of people, a lot of great input. Man, that was phenomenal. And I can't thank everybody enough who participated in that. We're going to attempt to do it again immediately following this episode for a short little post episode live. So for those of you that are watching this in real time, we will go back to TikTok post episode. Man, it's glad to be back. Today's episode is going to cover.
Let me do one more commercial real quick. If you want to join and see Josh's ugly mug directly, we're on the tubes, right? Go to Unapologetic Veteran Podcast and then go into the queue there, and then you can get your any comments in there. I can see the comments here on the TikTok on my side, but I recommend that you also go to the tubes of you.
Yes, please, so I can see what everybody's saying.
All right. Sorry for the interruption, Josh.
No, hey, I love the shameless plug. So today's episode is it's going to tie kind of into a previous episode that I did by myself a couple months ago on accountability, but this is leadership portion of that. So I'll ask you, Dr. James, what makes a good leader and what makes a bad leader?
Well, I can't do any self-deprecating jokes. My wife has already warned me that I'm not your bad leader example. So you're not going to hear any of that from me today. But you and I have had a really long conversation about this. And I think that a lot of people will say a bad leader does bad things or bad character. And that's where I disagree. I think you could have bad character and be a good leader, right? A very good example is the guy who led, the party in the 30s in Germany, right? Very charismatic, very effective. He came from one country and led another and became domineering in the world stage, right? So he brought a lot of smart people with him as he was doing that. So bad character, bad decisions, bad influence, but very effective and again, very charismatic. So I don't think bad character creates a bad leader. What I think is inconsistent leadership, right? Inconsistent direction, because we want as good, soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, we want to be able to anticipate what that command is, because that's our job. We want to be able to do a good thing. And so when our leader is inconsistent in their direction, in their guidance, then we get confused, right? And then we get in trouble, right? We go one direction because that's where we thought that leader was going, and no, they're trying to go over here now. And so we get to the point where we're like, hands up, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't do anymore because I'm not making you happy, or I'm not completing the mission or whatever. And then that's when problems begin, right? And then we'll talk about those bad results here shortly.
Yeah, I mean, to kind of piggyback off what you're saying, you can be a great leader and have a horrendous purpose or goal, right? I've actually seen some, I don't want to say debates, they're more conversations, but they get kind of debatey, specifically regarding Adolf Hitler, right? In his leadership, he is an absolute terrible person, did horrific things. But if you're speaking solely on leadership, like he did, I don't want to say he got zero pushback, but like he cultivated a leadership style where people followed him. Again, terrible fucking things, horrendous. But from a leadership standpoint,
yeah, you're getting muffled, Josh. I don't know what's going on, but it's coming in and out.
Is this better?
Hey, Ginger. Yes, keep going.
Okay, it's probably because I got too far away from my mic. One of the things is, like, you touched on in flip-floppy. I'll say flip-flop, right? They say, wake up, hey, we're going to do this today. And you get there and you start doing it because as service members, you kind of just do what you're told to do. And so you show up assuming that, and they get there and they're like, nah, let's go do this. And then you just get a bunch of pissed off people.
Right.
It's not always beneficial to change your mind all the time. Now, there are some instances where changing your mind sometimes does have positive outlook, but for the most part, I would agree with you. I'll give you another one. What type of leader would you say throws subordinates under the bus?
Well, I mean, that's a softball question, right? I mean, everybody knows that if you're going to throw a subordinate under the bus, I think Bree, even in the comments here, said something about mutual respect, right? So I'll share a story. I had a driver who came to me from a real small town, and he had never drove a vehicle in his life, right? And so he was my clerk. And part of our operating procedures were that my clerk in the orderly room was also my driver when we were doing missions. And so we had to send him to the 40-hour Humvee course, and that's the first time he's ever gotten behind a wheel. We were preparing to convoy from Fort Bragg to Hunter Army Airfield, which down I-95, 17 vehicles, generators, right? HEMTTs, all that stuff. Heading down to do a battalion operations, and I was the HHC company headquarters company commander. So Johnson is his name, and he's in the left seat, and he's driving, and he's white knuckling it, right? Think about it. My first time on the highway, my first time behind a Humvee, right? In this kind of scenario, and I'm driving the old man, right? So I can imagine. So I see that, and I saw, hey, Johnson, your mom visited, right? And I think your dad's coming to visit you too, right? Of course, this isn't a Humvee. It's loud and everything. And he was like, well, yes, sir. And he starts relaxing a little bit. The white knuckles start to release a little bit, and we're going back and forth. And I'm looking out the right window. And what I notice is that he's reaching to get his Camelback, right? Because he wants a drink. And so I didn't notice at this point, but he starts shifting lanes to the left lane. And I thought he was just shifting lanes because there's a car coming up, but we're going slow. So I'm like, okay, why is he shifting lanes? I don't know.
Right.
Turns out that he was drifting. So when he looked out the windshield, he did a serious overcorrection, jackknifed because we had a trailer with the pintle. So
Right.
the huge generator that we were towing starts this spinning thing. We start this spinning thing, and I mean, diesel fuel's going everywhere. We're spinning on the I-95. We get and we rest in the median,
Oh, lovely.
and I smell fuel. And he's like, "Sir, are you mad?" Right? And I got a master sergeant. Dude,
Yes.
all I do is I smell fuel, get out of the Humvee, right? That's the only thing, get out of the Humvee. So the three of us get out of the Humvee. You know, of course, the convoy's all pulling off to the side. I have to call battalion command. I'm like, we had a vehicle incident, all right? Long story short, we got to exercise, you know, vehicle recovery operations. We did this, and this. I get to, when we finally get to Savannah, because we recovered the generator and all that, but we're good. So we get to Savannah. My battalion commander, now this is the umbrella, right? Do we protect our soldiers from bullshit? There's a thing called undue influence. A battalion commander is not supposed to direct a company commander how to execute judicial punishment. But he's like, you're going to give him an Article 15, right? I'm like, for what, sir? Well, he destroyed a vehicle. He destroyed I said, sir, he was doing everything right. The only thing that happened was we sent a soldier for driver's training who didn't have a driver's license, who had zero experience. We put him on 995. I've already raised that in the high risk thing when we did our briefing. And this is what happened. He overcompensated, overcorrected, and this is what happened. So this bullshit was coming down, raining on this company commander I am. And so when I get back, and he said, you should be a Democrat the way you spin things. Right? And he doesn't know my party affiliation, but I get back to my company, and Johnson, he had to go to the hospital, right? Because they had a pee and bleed. That's part of the protocol. So he wasn't there. The master sergeant had taken him. So I pulled the whole company together. I said, look, what are your questions? And they're like, was he asleep? Was he fall? Because everybody thought, because he falls asleep a lot at the desk, right, as a clerk. I'm like, no, he wasn't asleep. I told him what happened. I said, when he comes back, pat him on the back. He's a good American because he's okay. We're all okay. And it wasn't something that it was outside of his training, outside of his experience. So and I mean it. And I mean, they all did. When he came in, they were all high-fiving him. Hey, I'm glad you're all right. You know, all this stuff. And then we continued our operation. So I had an opportunity. I had an opportunity to throw him under the bus. I had an opportunity to execute the judicial punishment. And I'm not saying I'm a good leader or a bad leader. I'm just saying I think that our duty is to protect our soldiers.
Absolutely.
When bullshit comes right, because it rains down a lot.
Absolutely. I mean, being a good leader also ties into being a good person, right? So like in that situation, you're also being a good person. You knew what his deficiencies were. You addressed them, and you're like, because I've seen this before, you know, in a similar situation, people will be like, well, he screwed up. He's got to go. And it's like, but that's not the right thing to do. You know, sometimes being a good leader also means being a good person and standing up for something that, you know, regardless of the situation and the person that this could potentially affect, you say, hey, I'm making the decision that no, I'm not. We addressed this in the very beginning. Y'all ignored it, and here we are. Now, does that take away from what really happened? Maybe. But like, you gave him a second chance because you noticed a deficiency in the beginning that people chose to overlook. I've seen people where, and they're in the same situation, they can't wait to throw somebody under the bus. They can't wait to take him to NJP. I worked with a staff sergeant in Camp Lejeune, and this was 2012, 2010, 2011, maybe 2011, I think. Maybe may have been before that. But she was my staff in COIC, I believe. And but anyways, I was on the battalion basketball team. And
hold on. I know how tall you are.
Hey,
you were
yes, and I started actually. I was believe it or not, just because I'm tiny doesn't mean I'm terrible at basketball. Look at Muggsy Bogues, for example. All right.
Good call. Good point. All right.
Earl, like, come on now. But so I was.
You were the center,
right? Just because I'm small, guys. But I was on the battalion basketball team, but anyways, I got hurt during company PT one day, and I was on light duty for a few weeks. I had hyperextended my knee, and so I wasn't able to play. But I was still on the team. The coach still put me in the book. I still went to the game. Now, I didn't play. And she had sought out the coach at the time and was like, I know he's malingering. I know he's up to something bad. And found out that I was in the book. Everything was zeros. I never played, never touched the court, never dressed. And she tried to get me for malingering. And I had another staff NCO that told her about herself and was like, yeah, we're not doing this. He didn't play. I was there. Like, stop witch hunting. But again, it's a great example of poor leadership. Went out of her way to try to find somebody that she could throw under the bus to make herself look better. You know, I'll give you another example. So I used to work with this. At the time, he was a gunny. He got promoted to Mass Sergeant after the fact. And he had done 3 cycles. So he did a total of 6.5. No. I guess it'd be 2.5. Anyways, he did like 6.5 years on the drill field. He was a drill instructor. Then he became company guns. Then he became series. I mean, that was his bread and butter. If there was anything in the Marine Corps he was good at, it was being a drill instructor. And he knew that. And so, you know, in the Marine Corps, which apparently it's now changed, so don't quote me on this, but back when I was in, you put F on your fit rep for First Sergeant, M for Mass Sergeant. And he would make it very abundantly clear that he wanted nothing to do with anything that was being there. He was a hell of a leader. Hell of a leader. Dude could lead a horse to water and make a drink, I feel like. But he would let everybody know, hey, this is not what I'm good at. This is not what I'm good at. I do not want to be here. And it's weird, though, but it's coming from a senior leadership billet like that, saying that I don't want to be here. Again, everybody respected him as a leader and as a person because he was very open and honest about the fact that he was terrible at what his MOS was because he'd been so removed from it. And it's just like sometimes having a higher rank doesn't make you good at a job, which doesn't make you the best leader in your field, right? So this kind of ties into where the next point, just because you wear a rank doesn't make you a good leader. So in my MOS, he was terrible. He would pass it off to a lot of the junior enlisted guys and say, hey, go ask them. Go. And it wasn't like, don't bother me with this. I'm a company gunny. Go mess with these guys. He legitimately was trying to be a good leader and pass it off because he knew that they knew what they were doing, not that he knew what he was doing. So my question is, does being a higher rank make you a good leader? Does being a senior rank, both enlisted or officer, doesn't matter, does that make you a good leader?
The simple answer is no, right? The leadership is within, the rank is the respect that gets you in the door, so to speak. And I want to hit on what something Bree said earlier about the respect going both ways. You know, in my mind, in my field, somebody wearing mosquito wings walking into my office got as much respect as somebody wearing oak leaves or the eagle. You know, and I don't like to say that I'm better than anybody, but my responsibility may be you, right? Let's say you're under my command. You're my responsibility, but that doesn't make me a better person than you. So a private got the same respect as a colonel, right? Instead of saying yes, sir, no, sir, to the private, I would say yes, private, or yes, Johnson, you know, Specialist Johnson, yes, whatever. But they got that same courtesy because that's what I think the military is. It's about courtesy and, you know, drill, ceremony, courtesy, respect, all that. So I don't think, you know, I think that there's a antithesis question here too, and that is the more junior the rank, does that mean the less leader you are? And I think that can be lost because I think a lot of opportunities we take are to form or forge good leaders, and that has to start at the entry level. Right?
Absolutely.
You don't stop or start when they make corporal. You don't start when they make sergeant. You just need to start as soon as that person says, I do. As soon as that I mean, that's what you're doing in the Marine Corps, right? When they get on the yellow footprints, you're forging them to be Marines, which means you're forging them to be leaders, which means you're forging them to lead troops. And so why do we think, and why do some leaders think that because, here's a story, I was in Guantanamo. Now, I was a loop. A loop is an aide de camp, right? So when you wear your dress uniforms, you have this, like what did Buddy say? If you have the blue cord, you're basic, you know, field MP, you're basically an infantry guy. So, you know, Justin passes his blue cord to his son. I mean, that's a pretty significant event. So in the aide de camp world, it's a yellow cord, right? Okay. And the higher you go, the more frills that it is, right? So I was an aide de camp to a 2-star general and then to an admiral. And when the admiral took over, the chief of staff was an Army colonel, was now a Navy captain. And he had just pinned on 06. And so we were a joint unit. Our S1 and S2 and S3 Alpha were all majors, right? And so and I watched it all unfold because where my desk was, I could see his office and the other offices, and I'm outside the admiral's office. And I watched this captain with his buddy coming in. He goes, "Hey, watch this." And he calls the S1, he just says, S1, S2, right? And these majors come from the National Guard, right? They grab their notepads, they pop up, they run out, and they run into his office. Yes, sir, right? And they're ready. He goes, I was just showing him I can do it. You all go back. I mean, right there. Yeah. If you want a good example of a bad leader, right 100%. There. Just because you can does not mean you should.
Absolutely.
Don't abuse it.
So I'm glad your story ties into this. So I asked ChatGPT because everybody loves ChatGPT. It's the new Google. I asked all I did. So I did bad and good, but I asked ChatGPT. I said, what does bad leadership look like? The first bullet point is the desk warrior who never shares the hardship.
Right.
The second bullet point, your TikTok's going crazy over there.
Yeah, thanks to Door Bundle, he's meeting my goals.
The second bullet point, the leader who throws subordinates under the bus, which we kind of touched on. That pretty much guarantees you're going to be a horrible leader and you should just not be a leader anymore. The third one, the one obsessed with optics over results.
You know, let's chase that rabbit a little bit.
Okay.
Right? We see it here on TikTok. So you and I've had this conversation, Josh. TikTok is no respecter of ranks, right? You know, the other day when I was on my run, I was listening to Chap do her live, and an 06 former brigade commander was in the live, right? Nobody would have known until he was sharing a story and he said that. Of course, everybody's like, "Oh, you were a colonel? You were an 06, right?" I was a major when I retired. I was enlisted in the major. We talked to people who are E4s, E5s. We've talked to people who had gotten out on bad conduct or dishonorable.
Mm-hmm.
But there's no respecter of rank or performance on TikTok. What I've seen, even people have honorables and have made it through the ranks, people that come in for that optic, right?
Yeah.
They want to be I hear this a lot, clout chasers, or they want the coins, or they want the whatever. And so be very careful when you're in a military environment. When you're in a military environment too, be very careful and look for those flags, for those people that are only after what makes them look better.
Oh, 100%. Right?
There are some good creators that are very influential that really don't care about being the influence that they are in the they're really about giving it back, right? They generate, positivity. They generate some income from that if they monetize. Got it. But they're about giving it back, right? And I met one recently in the last couple of weeks, and I think that's fantastic.
Yeah,
so those that chase the optics, to your point, and I'll land that plane there, are more about their ego and narcissism than they are about the people that are in their community that they say that they're about.
Yeah, 100%. And I would say that some of those people are the type of, I don't want to say leader, because not everybody's a leader, right? The Marine Corps considers E3s leaders. They start at there's leadership schools that the Marine Corps Lance Corporals go through. Well, at least there used to be. I'm sure there's still something, but like you start leadership PME as an E3. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are quote unquote clout chasers because they're chasing something that they never achieved. And they get some of that success or adrenaline, I guess, that dopamine hit. And they may have been a terrible leader, and it just transitions over into social media. I can think of a few right now off the top of my head that go both ways, that could give a shit less about what they make or their reach on TikTok for clout reasons, that they want to reach people because they truly want to help. They could care less if they make money, if they monetize, if they do this, that, and the third. They just want to reach the people.
Right.
And I think it's definitely a discussion worth having further. I would say, because there's a lot to unpack there. I
think absolutely. I'm gonna kind of push back a little bit about what you said. There are some people that are successful in the military that come into TikTok or other social media venues and still chase clout, right?
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. So, and I think that again, it goes back to the danger. I knew a sergeant major that I was, and my work is texting me through Teams. So, but I'm on break, so we're good. I knew a sergeant major, E9, who was all about the ego. He was completely a clout chaser. And he was wanting to go from the 05 command to the 06 command to the 1-star, the 2-star, all the way up. But it became very clear to a lot of the subordinate NCOs that this guy is not a guy you want to follow at all. And so, but successful by all intents and purposes. A command sergeant major is absolutely a successful position to achieve. And then I have not seen him on TikTok, but I'm sure I will at some point, because that's the kind of guy he is. He's going to set up the thing and he's going to try to make it all happen to his favor, right? I mean, that happens. And conversely, there are a few people I've met on TikTok that were not successful in the military that are killing it. They're crushing it on TikTok and doing a good thing and not being selfish about it, right? And so that's very comforting to see too.
Yeah, I guess I would agree. It could go both ways, most definitely. The last bullet point from ChatGPT: the rank chaser who forgot what it was like at the bottom.
Somebody just made that comment here.
Yeah, I would fair to say we all have worked with some people who have got a few stripes up under their belt and forgot what it was like to be a private. I can almost guarantee everybody ever that's served can think of a few people. Um,
So my first Article 15. Notice what I said there.
you're first, right? I mean, Chesty Puller said it best. You're not a real Marine unless you've been NJP twice. So
Right. So I was a specialist in the 82nd, and I was in the 313th MI battalion. And one of my peers, who I went to language school with, we didn't go to basic training, but we went to language school, AIT, and now we're in the 82nd together. She was in 98 Charlie, which is an intel analyst, and I was in 98 Golf, which was a linguist. And as we were, doing things, 98 Charlie's promotions were so much faster than 98 Golf's because in the Spanish language, a bunch of people that had spoke fluent Spanish got what they call stripes for skills, which maxed out the E5 ranks, the points. So to make E5 as a 98 Golf Latin American linguist was very difficult. So when I finally did, it's like, woohoo! But Carla made it fast, right? And so we were doing something, and she looked at me and she said, go do this. And I went, and it was totally not the right time or place, but she was like, she pinned on the sergeant, and all of a sudden, instant asshole, right? At least that's what the appearance was. And so I'm like, Carla, I'm not going to do that. I mean, let's whatever. Oh, hell no. Where did she go? Wrote a counseling statement, went to the first sergeant. I'm in front of the commander's desk with my first Article 15. But she was right? She forgot where she came from, but I also forgot that she was wearing chevrons.
Oops. I'm trying this. All right. You ready for the good stuff?
Oh, yeah, let's get to the good stuff. That wasn't the good stuff? Oh, good. I mean, it gets better?
Hopefully. So I asked ChatGPT the same thing of what good leadership looks like.
It showed you my picture, right?
Huh?
You said what good leadership looks like. It showed you my picture, right?
Yeah. The first one that pops up, and I know you've got something to say about this one.
Uh-oh.
Shows up early, leaves last.
Yeah. So I hear a lot of leaders, a lot of people think good leadership is the one that first in, last out. I mean, they even made a movie. We were soldiers once and young, when Mel Gibson's character, said, I'm going to be the first one to put my boot on, and I'm going to be the last one to put my boot off. Now, in a battle scenario, absolutely. But in the office, no. I don't care when that leader arrives, because you don't know what that leader's doing.
Mm-hmm.
That leader, I was in my battalion commander's office. We were getting ready to do he had called me into his office at 6 a.m. So I'm in PT gear. I'm in his, we're talking about something really serious, right? And so I had missed PT. 9 o'clock is the training meeting, and I'm late. And so when he finally, I'm in his office for 3 hours, right? I get to, in my office is where the battalion headquarters was located versus mine was a pretty good distance. It was like a cross Fort Bragg type thing. And I get to my office, and I had two doors, right? I had where my office was and where the training room, like I had a huge desk. So I opened the back door, and my NCO, and I sat down, and my NCO said, "Hey, sir, we saved at the head of table up there for you." I said, "Wherever I sit is the head of the table. I don't need a position on a table to show my authority," right? So they all like, ooh, want to do one of those, right? But the admiral that I worked for, when he came in, he said, and he gave his briefing, he goes, "I will be the first one in, and I will be the last one out. If you try to beat me, you'll get tired and I'll get pissed." So, and that dude was phenomenal. One of the best leaders I've ever met in my life. It wasn't because he was the first in, last out, but because back to everything else that we're talking about, he took care of soldiers. In Sailors, Airmen, Marine, He read. They would give him a stack of the reading for like news stories, and he would read them within an hour. He was phenomenally fast when it comes to reading. Brilliant mind. No wonder he went all the way up to 4-star. No wonder he became an ambassador to South Korea. No wonder all that stuff, because he was that kind of guy. And I mean, when you hear his name in other circles, people are like, yeah, they remember.
Is that
him.
Admiral Harris?
It is. It is.
I thought so. Yeah, I know. I've met Admiral Harris a few times.
Yeah.
Which is perfect because it ties directly into the next one. Knows their people personally.
Oh my goodness. So Admiral Harris, right? So I was doing my master's, and of course it's online. We're in Guantanamo Bay. And I'm and I get to the office before he does, right? Because it's the only time we don't have computer Wi-Fi in the dorms, right? So I come, and this is a nice, unaccompanied assignment. So my wife's back and kids are back in the States. So I come, the only place I got great Wi-Fi is my desk. And so I'm doing my master's courses. And the stuff I was studying apologetics, and I know you're the unapologetic veteran, right? I was studying apologetics and systemic theology, which means I had to read all night long, and then I had to get into the computer in the morning and do all that, the Blackboard, all that stuff, right, to make sure that I'm current on the assignments. Admiral Harris comes in. It was like the third morning in a row. He goes, and I mean, he calls me to carpet, right? And Admiral does that. I said, do not come in here before me and do not leave after me. You're going to get tired and I'm going to get pissed. I said, sir, I'm not here for you. He goes, excuse me? I said, this is for me. I'm doing my master's. Right? And so when I did it like that, he was like, oh, okay. But then he knew everything about my wife, my kids, whatever, because I was important to him.
Yeah.
And when I got my reassignment to DC, he calls me into his office and he goes, because I was going to be a Brigade S3. He goes, you're going to be a Brigade S3. It's going to be hard to find a place to live. So you're living at my house. And I'm not going to take no for an answer, no questions asked. I said, sir, no offense, but I have to ask my wife first because his wife still lived there. He'll be living with his wife. So I said, I got to ask my wife. So I called my wife and she's like, no problem. Came back to the Admiral. I said, hey, sir, appreciate it. No questions asked. Wife gave approval. The only person that could trump you, sir. But he wanted to take care of me. That's the kind of leader he was.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal person. Next bullet point is handles problems face to face.
Yeah. And I think part of that face to face is head on. And I think part of that head on is timely, right? Bad news does not get better with time like wine does, right? And again, I have a lot of great leader examples that can do it, but I'll give you my worst, what I think a bad leader is like that, or bad leader. I call it leadership by email. We would get an email from the corps commander, then the division commander forwarded. Then it was forwarded to the brigade commanders, who forwarded to the battalion commanders, who forwarded to the company commanders, right? And a lot of company commanders forwarded to the platoon leaders. So you see, you must do this, but you can see that it came all the way down from the general, right? So it's like you're not exercising leadership, you're exercising he said it. You got to do it because he said it. So what I would do is I would cut all of that shit out and say, here's your directive. I would make it so it made sense for our company. Here's your directive. So when people knew that when I said something, that was my order and that I wasn't blaming the guy ahead of me or guy on top of me. A good example is we were doing a convoy live fire exercise, and you do the crawl, walk, run, right? So you drive through it real slow, then you drive through it with miles gear, and there's another story there that I'll save for another time, and then you do the actual live fire. We did the crawl, we did the walk, and then we got a frago. The battalion commander pulled me in and said, and the first sergeant, this is what you're going to do. Completely changing the table. And if anybody knows, when you're doing change of tables, and going into live fire, not crawl and walk, going directly into live fire with the change table. And I mean 10 toes in, sir, that's not smart. This is what's going to happen, but whatever. And I mean argued till I was blue in the face. And when he said, I've made my decision, move out. Yes, sir. I go back to my company, Frago, boom, 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 boom. All the senior leaders, the NCOs and officers were like, sir, that had to come from the old man. That's fucked up. We know you would never make a decision like that. I said, that's my decision. What other questions you got? Once all the questions were answered, execute. And they did. They knew that it was him, but I wanted them to, when I made an order, that was my order. If it failed, it's my fault. If it succeeds, it's my fault. So I think bad leadership style was those forwarded emails, because all you're doing is you're like, yeah, that's not me, buddy. That's him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can, that, I hate people that do that. Like, I can't stand people like that, regardless if they're in a leadership position or not. If you do that as a person, like, no. The last one.
Bree says leaders listen. They don't just hear, they listen.
I will skip
I'm trying
the
to pick up the comments, so forgive me.
No. I will skip the last one and say, it says, understands rank gives you authority. Character earns loyalty.
That's good. I like that. You've heard me say it, Josh, and I've had this conversation with a few other people, about your character. The most significant way that a junior enlisted can get back to their leader is to do exactly what that leader told them to do.
Yep.
Right. So if that leader said, hey, go to the motor pool, check the vehicles, they'll go to the motor pool, they'll look. The motor sergeant will tell the platoon leader, hey, the vehicles are supposed to be online, chalk, or drip pans, and they're not. And I thought I told Specialist Snuffy, Specialist James, hey, go out there and check the vehicles. And Specialist James had attention. I did, sir. I did. You told me to go check. I looked. They were there, 100%. What he meant was put the chalk blocks, put the drip pans, make sure they're online and that they're all secure. Oh, he didn't tell me to do that. So if I wanted to get back at my boss, I would do exactly what he told me to do.
100%.
With no initiative.
100%.
Hey, Sergeant Major. Sergeant Major behind the curtains just came in.
Oh.
Oh, now we can't talk about Sergeant Major.
Can't talk about Sergeant Major while Sergeant Major's here.
Get off my grass.
All right, so I'm going to kind of end this little mini discussion about this with this. Again, ChatGPT comes up with some of the most off-the-wall stuff regarding leadership. It says, do you... this is funny. It said self-check. Which one are you? Ask yourself. Do my people come to me with problems or avoid me? Do they prefer because they fear me? Or I'm sorry, do they perform because they fear me or respect me? Am I building replacements or protecting my position?
Leadership changes every year. There's some kind of change. Every 2 years, there's some kind of change of responsibility. 18 months to 2 years. Every 3 years, there's a change of duty assignment. So if we're not building those behind us to do that, then we're failing them. Back to the comment I made earlier, when you go to Paris Island or wherever and you step on those yellow footprints, you should be forming them to be leaders from day one, not just when they're in E3, like you talked about earlier, day one. Because as we do in the military, we award, what is it? The potential is 2 up, 1 down, right? Mm-hmm. You take a staff sergeant and they should be able to do a sergeant first class job and a master sergeant's job. But he also should be able to do, or she should be able to do the sergeant's job. Yeah, 2 up, absolutely. 1 down. We promote on potential, we award on performance. Well, you got to create those opportunities for potential. You got to create. So
That-
I was a company commander, and we're getting ready to do that convoy operations, and we were at PT, and my combo guy was like, so I saw you getting ready for an op board, and he came in I saw you getting ready for an op board. What does this do? And so I did Ranger School style op order, right? 5 paragraphs, did the GOTLAs, all that stuff, and I'm like, this is what we do. And he goes, this is really cool. Can I learn to do it? And I said, absolutely. Now he's planning to ETS, and he did. He didn't stay in, but he's planning to ETS. So I said, here's your mission. Bring it back to me tomorrow morning. Call me throughout the night, whatever questions you have. Bring it back to me tomorrow morning, and let's see what we can do. He's like, he was excited. He did not know, but I called the battalion commander. I said, sir, you want to be here for this. He's going to brief the op, right? So he comes in, he's got his papers and stuff, and he turns the corner and he sees the battalion commander. He's like, ugh. Like, you got it, go for it. He presented it, whatever. I mean, nervous as all hell. He followed the standard that I gave him. The battalion commander gives him a coin, right? So he's like, here you go. So the point is that we, even though he got out, still develop those junior NCOs and those junior leaders, because you don't know. At some day he may have said, you know what, I'm going to stay in.
Absolutely.
And then he would have been skyrocketing to a first sergeant position.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, a lot of times I say a lot of times, but I think sometimes people take a bad mindset is, oh, I'm just getting out. But like, you never know. A good leader could make somebody stay. They could give them a new outlook, a new perspective. I mean, we've all experienced bad leaders and bad leadership, micromanagement,
Yeah.
like microgymmint, but like it just being a good person, right? Like, translates to some degree to being a good leader. I'm not saying if you're a good person, you're automatically a good leader. You could be a great person and a shitty leader. Like, that is insanely possible. But, good leaders tend to create more of a camaraderie, more of a commitment from their subordinates, if you will, right? They want to be around you. They want to make sure that they want to make sure that they're doing good for you. They want to make sure that, they don't have to come down and question you, because if there's one thing a group of Lance Corporals in the Marine Corps can figure out, it's how to do their job effectively enough so nobody messes with them.
Right.
Not that that's a good thing, but like it gives, it gives people, especially if you're a good leader and you do what you say you're going to do, it gives people a good feeling. We are running past time for this particular miniseries, but what do you got?
One more story. So my retention NCO couldn't stand me. Well, we got along, but to your point, I never tried to convince a soldier to stay in or to get out. Well, let me back up. I did try to convince them to get out. If they were a problem, we had a conversation. But as far as to stay in, because like that NCO that I was talking about, we had a conversation about him staying in or not. And I said, you got to make the best decision for you and your family. I will tell you from my perspective, you're a great NCO. You understand the mission. You understand what it takes to lead. You're great at what you do. If you stay in, project you're going to stay in for 20 and gear everything for that or more, and gear everything for that so that you're successful. But if you get out and gear everything for your success there. Whatever decision you choose, you got my support. Which means if he had to get out, here's a big one. We've talked a lot about this on the social media circles. I allowed him to go to TAP classes. I allowed him to do all the transitioning stuff that he had to do, which a lot of commands didn't do back when I was enlisted.
Right.
Then they were like, no, we need you. You got to do this. And so it ended up being just, here's your DD-214, sign it and move on. Right. That was it. But if their decision is to get out, I'm going to help them be the best civilian in transition that they can. But
absolutely.
I'm there for it too.
Yeah, absolutely. To touch on that, I have seen a few times where people are like, I'm getting out. And it could be for various reasons. They're like, fuck that guy, put him in the corner. Like he's
Right.
getting out. It's like you no longer become of service to them, or you become a burden. And it's like, no, like I would look down on somebody's a leader. I don't say look down, but I'd look kind of side-eyed at somebody as a leader if they treated somebody like that, because this is not a career for everybody. It's a stepping stone for some people. For a lot of people, it's a stepping stone.
Absolutely. It was for me originally. I
And-
enlisted so I could get college.
And, as a good leader, you want to give them the best that you can give them. I would think that we as good leaders and people who strive for want to be good leaders and show good leadership would show more there than some other people that I've unfortunately had the pleasure of dealing with in my life.
And that's another thing too. I think that if the Sergeant Major's still in here, I'd like for, if he could agree with it or not. Leadership is one command away. Good leadership is one command away. Bad leadership is one command away. We can actually be a part of a bad leadership experience and decide that's it, I'm getting out, and then transition to another leadership experience. You're like, wait a minute, this is really good. And conversely, right? The opposite.
Absolutely.
And I know about your master sergeant in Hawaii experience, right? and so I think it's really important to know, or to when soldiers or when they're coming up in the ranks and stuff, to know that the Army is not only based on that leader, or that climate that you're in right now. That if you want to make this a career, if you want to try another one, realize that there are good leaders out there, good command climates out there.
Absolutely. Well, ladies and germs, that's all the time we have for today. At least here, anyways.
I'm going to be on TikTok, and when you come up, we'll bring you into the boxes, and we will open up the panel there for discussion.
Hell yeah, let's do it. So, with all that, let's end this sucker. But before I do, I have a question for everybody, and this may or may not be a hint. I cannot confirm nor deny. Is the VA corrupt? Is the Department of Veteran Affairs corrupt? Or are the employees there overworked and underpaid? Think about it. Give me your thoughts. I'm curious. This question arose from a TikTok live that I was in earlier today. And I think it deserves a discussion. And I'd like to do that here in the next few days. Dr. James, it's been a pleasure.
Always a pleasure with you, Josh.
We'll have to expand on some of these leadership styles. I think that'll be the next one in this series, will be leadership styles. Because I'm sure you and I have different leadership styles and different opinions on certain styles. But that is for another day. With that, the Unapologetic Veterans Podcast is brought to you by Homefront SITREP. It's produced also by Heroes Media Group. And, we appreciate everybody that watches, listens, comments, shares, has an opinion, talks about it, wherever. YouTube, TikTok, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, soon to be Amazon if they get back to me ever. Hint, Jeffrey Bezos. But we're everywhere. And, I appreciate it. I appreciate everybody. Dr. James, I appreciate you. This has been something that I've always wanted to do. And, you guys supporting this and everything is not left unappreciated. Any closing thoughts there, Dr. James?
So, yeah, I think one of the things that we didn't talk about, but I'll just use this. Oh, it says my live will end in 5 minutes unless I put this puzzle piece together. Good, we're good. Okay, good. Here's what I'm going to end with. Take that good leadership that you learned. Take the bad leadership you learned. Put them together and become the great leader that you are. I'll leave it with that.
Perfect. Well, everybody, This has been another episode of the Unapologetic Veterans Podcast. Thank you for listening.
Us high.